Every year, millions of people from every corner of the globe make a journey that has been going on for over 1,000 years. It's not just a trip, it's not tourism, it's not even a vacation. It's something far deeper, something that has touched the core of human existence. This is the pilgrimage to Mecca and Medina, two cities that sit at the heart of the Islamic world. People save their entire lives for it. Families sell possessions, work extra hours, and sometimes wait decades just for a chance to go. And what makes it so fascinating is that this isn't just about religion. It's about identity, purpose, and the search for meaning in an era where everything else feels shallow. Think about this. In a world dominated by screens, materialism, and distractions, millions of people still feel compelled to answer a call that was first established almost 1,500 years ago. Imagine the logistics, the flights, the buses, the trains, the caravans. They all converge on a single desert land, on the Arabian Peninsula, into one of the most remarkable gatherings in the history of humanity. And what's so wild about it is that this is the only gathering where race, wealth, and nationality dissolve into complete insignificance. You could have a billionaire walking side by side with a farmer, a tech entrepreneur next to a shepherd, a king next to a taxi driver. No labels, no status. Just simple white garments that strip away everything except the essence of being human. That's Mecca, that's Medina. But to understand why this journey is so powerful, you have to dig into the history and symbolism of it. This isn't a tradition created by man for entertainment. It traces its roots back to the prophet Abraham, a figure revered by Muslims, Christians, and Jews alike. According to Islamic belief, he was the one who, with his son Ishmael, raised the foundations of the Kaaba, the black cube structure at the center of Mecca. That cube isn't just some ancient artifact. It's the direction that over 1 billion Muslims turn to when they pray 5 times a day. Think about how crazy that is. Right now, as you're listening to this, somewhere across the globe, someone is bowing toward that structure. That synchronization of billions of people facing one spot every single day is unlike anything else in human civilization. And yet, the real power isn't in the stone, or the cube, or even the rituals themselves. It's in what they represent. The journey to Mecca, known as Hajj, is about confronting mortality, confronting the self, and confronting the ego. Everyone who goes there has to wear the same simple garments called ihram. No jewelry, no designer clothes, no marks of wealth. Just plain, white sheets that make you indistinguishable from the person next to you. It's like a great equalizer, reminding every soul that when death comes, none of the material stuff matters. And this is where the pilgrimage transforms from just an act of worship to a raw, unfiltered experience of humanity itself. Now, think about Medina. This is the city that holds the resting place of Prophet Muhammad, the man who Muslims believe brought the final message of God to humanity. Medina isn't about grandeur or spectacle. It's about peace, humility, and community. It's quieter than Mecca, but it carries this weight of history that's almost indescribable. When pilgrims walk through Medina, they aren't just walking in a city. They're walking in the footsteps of the Prophet, in the place where Islam took root, where the community of believers was first formed, and where the foundations of one of the world's largest civilizations were laid. The fascinating thing about these journeys is the emotional transformation that people go through. Imagine stepping into a space where you know millions have cried, prayed, and begged for forgiveness before you. Imagine being in a crowd so massive that every direction you look, you see faces you've never seen before, yet all of them are doing the exact same thing as you, bowing, standing, raising their hand in prayer. There's this overwhelming sense that you're part of something bigger than yourself. something that doesn't just tie you to your family or your community, but to the entire human story. And that's what makes it worth talking about. Because in a time when people feel lost, disconnected, and overwhelmed by the chaos of modern life, this pilgrimage reminds us that there's something timeless about seeking truth, about seeking purpose. You don't have to be Muslim to appreciate the sheer magnitude of what's happening in Mecca and Medina. Just look at it for what it is: millions of people, year after year, generation after generation, walking into the desert, stripping themselves of ego, and surrendering to something beyond themselves. That's not just religion, that's human nature at its purest form, and this is only scratching the surface. Because the deeper you go, the more you realize that this journey is filled with rituals, symbols, and acts that tell the story of humanity itself. Our struggles, our tests, our sacrifices, and our ultimate search for peace. In the next chapter, we'll dive into exactly what those rituals are, why they're performed, and how they transform the people who take part in them, not just during the pilgrimage, but for the rest of their lives. Once the pilgrim arrives in Mecca, the real journey begins. It's not just about showing up, it's about entering into a state of mind and body called ihram. This isn't just a dress code, it's a mental reset. When the garments are put on, the pilgrim is essentially declaring, I am leaving behind my identity as I knew it. I am no longer a CEO, a farmer, a parent, or a student. I am simply a soul before God. That first step alone is radical in a world obsessed with image and titles. It forces people to confront who they are without their masks, without their labels, without the layers society has built on top of them. From there, pilgrims move toward the Kaaba, that black cube in the center of the Grand Mosque. The ritual known as tawaf begins, circling the Kaaba 7 times. And here's what's fascinating. It looks like a cosmic dance, millions of bodies moving in unison, orbiting this single structure like planets around a sun. It's symbolic of life itself, where God is the center and everything else rotates around him. Scientists and philosophers have pointed out how even electrons circle a nucleus, galaxies circle a center, and now millions of people circle the Kaaba. That synchronization of the human body with the rhythms of the universe, that's the depth behind Tawaf. It's more than walking in circles, it's reprogramming the soul. After circling the Kaaba, pilgrims run between the hills of Safa and Marwa, reenacting the desperate search of Hagar, the wife of Abraham, who ran back and forth looking for water for her infant son. It's not just an exercise, it's stepping into the footsteps of a mother's struggle for survival. And when you think about it, that story isn't just ancient history. It's the story of every human who has ever fought to protect their loved ones, every person who has ever been desperate and found hope in the darkest place. At the end of that story lies the Zamzam well, a spring that still flows to this day, providing water to millions. When pilgrims drink from it, they're not just quenching thirst. They're connecting with a miracle that has been sustained for thousands of years. But the most intense part of the pilgrimage comes later, the day of Arafat. This is often described as the climax of Hajj. Pilgrims gather on the plain of Arafat, standing for hours in the scorching sun, raising their hands in prayer, begging for forgiveness, crying until their voices break. And here's the thing, it's not about physical struggle anymore. It's about vulnerability. Pilgrims are stripped bare, not of clothes this time, but of excuses. They face themselves, they face their sins, their regrets, their failures. They face mortality. It's like a rehearsal for the day of judgment, where nothing can be hidden and everything is laid bare before the Creator. For many, this becomes the most powerful day of their lives. People walk away transformed, sometimes unrecognizable even to themselves. The things they once thought mattered, money, grudges, pride, suddenly shrink into irrelevance. What grows instead is humility, clarity, and an understanding that life is short, fragile, and fleeting. Standing at Arafat is like hitting a reset button on the soul. After Arafat, the rituals continue with symbolic acts that reflect some of the oldest stories of faith and resistance. Pilgrims throw stones at pillars known as the Jamarat, representing the devil. It's not about throwing pebbles at some physical structure. It's about confronting temptation, ego, and weakness, the inner devils we all fight every single day. Each stone is like a declaration: I won't give in. I won't surrender to what destroys me. Then comes the sacrifice. Pilgrims slaughter an animal, echoing the story of Abraham's willingness to sacrifice his son before God replaced the offering with a ram. And while the ritual today involves meat distributed to the poor, its meaning runs much deeper. It's about letting go of what we hold dearest, about being willing to sacrifice pride, comfort, and even life itself, if it means staying true to the truth. When all these rituals are complete, the pilgrim shaves their head or trims their hair, symbolizing renewal. It's like shedding an old skin. The journey is not just external anymore, it's internal. The body may be tired, the feet blistered, but the soul, by now, is lighter, freer, and cleaner. What's remarkable is how these rituals tie directly into human psychology. Each act dismantles a different layer of the ego. The clothing strips away status. The circling of the Kaaba pulls you into alignment with something greater. The running between the hills connects you with desperation and hope. The standing at Arafat forces you into radical self-awareness. The stoning of the devil gives you strength against temptation. The sacrifice teaches surrender, and the shaving of the head finalizes transformation. Together, these aren't just rituals. They're a spiritual blueprint for confronting life itself. And here's the kicker: this isn't about one moment. It's not like people go, do these rituals, and return unchanged. The whole point is that this journey becomes a mirror for how you live after you go home. If you can walk with millions in peace in Mecca, can you walk in peace with your neighbor? If you can forgive yourself at Arafat, can you forgive others in your daily life? If you can throw stones at temptation there, can you resist it when you're back in your city, surrounded by distractions? The rituals are the training ground. The real test is life afterward, and that's what makes the journey so profound. It's not a vacation you take once. It's a transformation that lives with you forever. But there's another side to this story. While Mecca represents the intensity of struggle, surrender, and transformation, Medina offers something different. It offers serenity, a kind of peace that doesn't burn like fire but soothes like water. To understand the balance between Mecca and Medina is to understand the two dimensions of the human journey: struggle and peace, storm and calm. And that's where we'll go in the next chapter. If Mecca is the fire that purifies, then Medina is the calm that heals. Where Mecca overwhelms the senses with intensity, Medina greets the soul with a quiet stillness. It is a city unlike any other, not because of its size or wealth, but because of what it represents. Medina is where the Prophet Muhammad built a community, where his teachings were lived out, and where his final resting place lies. For millions who journey there, the experience of Medina feels like entering a sanctuary where time slows down and the noise of the world fades into silence. When pilgrims step into Medina, the contrast from Mecca is striking. The tension of ritual struggle eases into serenity. The air feels different, lighter, calmer, as if the city itself was designed to embrace tired souls. Pilgrims walk through streets where the Prophet once walked, a place where history isn't buried but alive in the very soil. To sit in the Prophet's mosque is to sit in one of the most spiritually charged spaces in the world. Yet the power here doesn't come from intensity, but from tranquility. People weep, people pray, people reflect. But unlike Mecca, where the rituals push you into raw confrontation with your inner self, Medina whispers peace into the heart, telling you, you are safe now. You are home. The Prophet's mosque itself is extraordinary, not just in its architecture, but in its symbolism. Pilgrims enter to find an ocean of worshippers sitting, standing, reciting, or just absorbing the atmosphere. There's a place inside known as Al-Rada, described as a garden from the gardens of paradise. To pray, there is considered one of the greatest blessings a pilgrim can receive. But it's not just about physical prayer, it's about the feeling of connection. Imagine sitting in a place where the Prophet spoke, where his companions gathered, where the foundations of an entire civilization were laid. That connection isn't abstract, it's visceral. People feel it in their bones, and then there is the resting place of the Prophet himself. To stand there is to stand in front of a man who, through sheer resilience, compassion, and unbreakable faith, transformed the course of human history. Pilgrims don't just see a tomb, they feel the weight of his legacy. The city of Medina itself reflects his life, humble, peaceful, centered on community. Unlike the roaring energy of Mecca, Medina nurtures reflection. People come here after the intensity of Hajj not to struggle but to process, to let the lessons sink in, to carry forward the fire of Mecca into the gentle embrace of Medina. What's fascinating is how Medina reflects a side of human life that is just as important as the struggle. We all face battles, temptations, and hardships, but equally necessary is peace, the ability to recharge, to find harmony, to sit with oneself without distraction. Medina is the embodiment of that. It teaches that spirituality isn't just about fighting your inner demons. It's also about building community, showing kindness, and creating spaces of peace in a chaotic world. In Medina, history breathes. Pilgrims visit sites where the earliest Muslim community gathered, where the Prophet led prayers, where battles for survival were fought, and where lessons of forgiveness and compassion were lived. Each step through Medina connects the pilgrim to a timeline of human resilience. You realize that faith wasn't built in comfort. It was built in hardship, but it blossomed in community. That duality of struggle and peace, fire and water, is what gives the journey its complete shape. And the emotional transformation here is profound. Many who felt broken by the sheer intensity of Mecca find their hearts healed in Medina. The city has this way of softening you. Pilgrims describe leaving with a sense of calm that follows them for the rest of their lives. It's not about spectacle. It's about presence. You walk slower, you breathe deeper, you think clearer. You realize that the essence of spirituality isn't noise or chaos, it's peace. And that's why Medina completes the journey. Without it, the transformation of Mecca would remain raw and unresolved. With Medina, the fire is cooled, the wounds are healed, and the soul is balanced. This dual experience, Mecca and Medina, reflects the two sides of every human being. We all have our battles, our trials, our temptations, but we also crave peace, stillness, and belonging. To journey through both cities is to journey through both sides of yourself. One part teaches you to strip away the ego, to confront yourself honestly. The other teaches you to embrace peace, to build, to love, and to carry that sense of belonging into your daily life. And this is where the pilgrimage starts to extend beyond religion. Because even if you're not Muslim, the symbolism is universal. We all need Mecca, the fire, the challenge, the purification, and we all need Medina, the calm, the community, the sanctuary. The journey between them is the journey of being human.